What is going on, people? My name is Antoine, this is ATM Tech, and welcome to the channel. So for the past few months, I've been fortunate enough to have the Galaxy Z Fold 3 as my daily driver. Now Samsung are 3 generations into their Fold series, and they've got some things right and they've definitely got some things wrong. But the question on my mind and what I'm still trying to figure out is, what's the point? So stick around with me in this video while I try to figure that out. So starting with some of the things that this phone does really well, I think Samsung put a heavy focus on durability this time around. One of the weak points of the Fold 1 and Fold 2 was just the fact that it just felt as though it was not built to last. But Samsung really upped the structural integrity on the Fold 3, and they even added some water resistance. There's a Jerry Rig Everything video that's definitely worth checking out, where he really puts the phone through its paces, and the phone comes out on the other side alive, which really surprised me. So although I'm never going to recommend this phone to someone who's accident prone, you can take a bit of confidence from knowing that this phone is pretty much just as durable as any other regular phone. Now there's a couple of innovations on the Fold 3 which have left me scratching my head a little bit. The first one is the main display, or more specifically the selfie camera that's hiding underneath. Now at a glance you'll probably miss it, but if you look carefully there is a little selfie camera hiding underneath the screen. So I imagine the idea behind this is to create a more immersive experience when you're using that larger display. And as you can see from each version of the Fold, Samsung have made active changes to try and improve that experience. And as an idea, having a camera hidden underneath the screen is a good idea, but the trade-off is the camera itself is really poor to the point where you don't want to use it. You know that smeared blurry look you get when you take a photo but there's fingerprints on the lens? Well, this under-screen selfie camera looks like that all the time. Now on one hand it's not that big of a deal because there is another selfie camera on the smaller outer display, as well as you're able to use the main camera as a selfie camera as well. But the thing that confuses me so much is that Samsung encourages their flex mode for video calling, hands-free selfies, group photos, that type of thing. So they're encouraging you to use their feature that utilizes the worst camera. It kind of doesn't make sense to me. And having used the Fold 2 for the best part of a year, that hole punch camera was absolutely fine. You didn't notice it at all. So I feel like Samsung were trying to fix a problem that wasn't really there. Now I can understand that Samsung want to innovate when it comes to the Fold. However, I do think that technology should probably be saved for one of their lower end phones until it's perfected. So moving on from that, Samsung haven't exactly come out and said it, but essentially this year they tried to replace the Note series with the Fold. So history tells us Samsung releases a new Note every August or September, but that didn't happen this year. So a big part of that is likely down to chip shortages and supply chain issues, that sort of thing. But I think Samsung took that as an opportunity to experiment this year and to see how their loyal Note fan base would react. So this year Samsung added S Pen support to the Fold, which on the surface of things is a great idea and it makes a lot of sense. Having a larger canvas makes things easier, like making notes, sketches, artwork, that sort of thing. But for Note users, the Note is more than just about the S Pen. Note users are typically happy to pay a small premium over the S series to have a bigger screen, a bigger battery, and all the latest technology. Quite a lot of Note users don't actually use their S Pen, but they're secure in knowing that it's tucked away in the phone if they ever do want to use it. But with the Fold 3, you're asking Note users to pay way more than what they usually pay, when they can just get everything that they want to get from the S series. And the S Pen for the Fold 3 is an optional extra, something you have to think about remembering to carry around. I think that alone just isn't enough to get Note users to go for the Fold over the S21 Ultra, for example. Don't get me wrong, using the S Pen on the Fold 3 is really nice. I just don't think it's an incentive to get the phone. Something worth knowing, Samsung actually had to design an S Pen specifically for the Fold 3. If you try and use an older S Pen or an S Pen for a different device, it just won't work and a little alert will pop up on the screen. Samsung needed to design an S Pen that wasn't going to damage the plastic inner screen. So they created one with a more rounded nib and it would retract when you write on the screen. Just something worth knowing if you're perhaps hoping to use your existing S Pen on the Fold 3. So one of my main talking points when people ask me about this phone is the battery life. So the phone comes with a 4400 milliamp battery, which is 100 milliamps smaller than last year's model. So on paper that should make no significant difference, but my god, the battery on this phone is bad. This is coming from someone who used the Z Fold 2 every day for nearly a year. With that phone I was able to get through a full day very comfortably. The battery would be significantly worse if I used the main larger screen more often, but if I switch between the two, then battery life was fine. With the Fold 3, it feels like no matter what I do, how I use it, I'm seeing that percentage go down before my eyes. I can only really get through the day with light use. If I have a heavy session for an hour, maybe social media, video, that sort of thing, that 1 hour can really mess me up for the rest of the day, and I'm looking for a charger way sooner than what I'd like to be. It's really disappointing because when you have a phone like this with such a large screen, you are encouraged to use it more, but I'm constantly having to think about my battery pretty much all the time, which prevents me from using the phone in the way that gets me the most enjoyment. Now, the only change I can think of that uses more power compared to last year's model is the outer screen has 120 Hz, whereas last year it only had 60 Hz. But I feel like that alone shouldn't be making that much of a difference in battery life. If I was to change the way I use the phone slightly, then again, I could probably get decent battery life out of it. But to me, it just defeats the purpose of having a phone like this. Now, here's the most confusing thing about this phone. I've been fortunate enough to have the Fold 1, the Fold 2 and the Fold 3 all as daily drivers. And with each phone, over time, I've been figuring out the best way to use the phone for me. But the craziest thing that I found is, considering it's a folding phone with a nice big tablet sized screen, 95% of the time I use the phone folded, which is a complete waste, and it just begs the idea, what is the point of having a phone like this? There's two main reasons why I use this phone mostly folded, and they are opposite sides of the same coin. The first reason is because the phone is slim and tall, it makes it quite easy to use one-handed, which is a luxury that we don't really have with phones these days. Phones are massive, so a lot of times you need two hands, or there's a lot of one-handed gymnastics required to use a phone one-handed. The second reason, I can't be bothered to open it up. It's interesting how even though these days our phones take up a lot of our time, it's very rare that they actually have 100% of our attention. When you're using your phone, chances are you're multitasking, or you're just picking up your phone for a quick glance, checking notifications, that sort of thing. Even though picking up the phone and unfolding it takes 1 second longer than picking it up with one hand. One, it requires two hands, and two, those 1 seconds add up, and I just think subconsciously it requires more effort. And when you're using your phone with two hands, it also subconsciously telegraphs to people that you're more focused on your phone than what's going on around you, which is a signal that once you're aware of, you try not to send out too often. So the Fold 3 has really got me thinking, why am I using it? What's the point? And why don't I just go back to my S21 Ultra? And ultimately, it's down to the cool factor. Having a piece of futuristic technology that not many people have, to a tech head like me, just makes me feel good. Even though it makes more sense for me to use a conventional smartphone, I know that no matter what, I'm going to keep on going back to the Fold. Now, I'm in the fortunate position where I haven't had to pay for the Fold, and if I had put my money where my mouth is, I might be saying something different. But I just want to make sure I provide you with as much information as possible before you go ahead and spend your hard-earned cash. Speaking of hard-earned cash, the Z Fold 3 has taken a price drop compared to last year's model, which is now £1,600 compared to the Fold 2, which cost £1,700. So the price is coming down in the right direction. I just think it needs to come down just a bit more to make it a bit more viable for everyone. But anyway, that's enough from me. But if you're into retro gaming, check out this video popping up on your screen right now, where I go through some retro gaming tests on the Z Fold 3. Catch you in the next one. Peace.